Herzlich willkommen zu dem heutigen Network Spotlight. Ich glaube, es ist das erste auf Deutsch an der ITU, wenn ich mich richtig erinnere. Mein Name ist Daniel Krakau. Ich bin an der ITU zuständig für das Thema Außenwirkung, Partnerschaften und insbesondere eben auch werden in meinem Team die Events mitorganisiert. Und ich begrüße Sie und euch alle recht ganz herzlich zum heutigen, wie gesagt, Format mit dem Themenschwerpunkt Women in AI. Und ich habe mich gerade mit Verena spontan darauf geeinigt, dass wir die ursprünglich geplante Reihenfolge umdrehen. Das heißt, ich werde erst Verena das Wort geben und sie eine kleine Einführung machen lassen und dann die Brücke schlagen zwischen dem, was Women in AI und die ITU als Institution, aber auch als moderne Bildungseinrichtung, als Vorreiterin in vielen Themen verbindet und dann übergeben an unsere heutige Keynote, Nina. Und in dem Sinne begrüße ich also euch alle und Sie ganz recht herzlich und würde gerne mit einem ersten warmen Applaus unsere erste Rednerin Verena begrüßen. Dankeschön.
Okay, so welcome also from my side. My name is Verena. I'm representing women in AI Austria today. I will switch to English now. Also, as I think the keynote will also be in English, I think, but I will switch now. So today we are talking about AI cannibalism and also internet fragmentation. So AI is reshaping the internet, but who is shaping AI? And as you see, if without diversity, and we think diversity is the key to this, without diversity, we risk a future that algorithms only represent a minority. Just to give you a few numbers, only 22% of AI talent globally are women. If you go to senior level, it's even less. The gender gap is also represented in usage and also in skills of Gen AI. And women avoid AI more and less interested. We also know from the past that there are gender-biased algorithms, and we have barriers to career progression. And that's why we founded Women in AI. So our mission is to drive diversity and gender equality across the AI ecosystem at every stage of the AI lifecycle, meaning from development until to real-world application. We raise awareness for the social impacts of technology and the importance of human-centered AI. And we bridge the gaps between in the access to AI technology and AI literacy, ensuring also the equitable opportunities for all. How do we do this? So we empower women, we raise visibility for women, we raise the awareness for the topics we stand for. Through strong collaboration, we bring all minds together. That's our slogan. So Women in AI Austria is an Austrian association. We founded it in 2020. You know, when ChatGPT was basically published. So already before that, we already saw the challenges, and that's why we founded it. So we are a non-profit movement driving inclusive AI. We founded, as already said, in 2020. We have now over 4,000 followers on LinkedIn and a Signal group with over 200 women. We have 40 full voting members and a board with 7 amazing members and 10 teams and team leads. So you can see here our board, just to also give you some faces here. And you see also the expertise they have is very ranging and very broad. So we have tech expertise, we have law expertise, we have also sociological expertise. So we can basically cover really the whole disciplinaries we need to tackle these challenges. We also have regional groups, so we connect women in Vienna, in Upper Austria, in Styria, in Salzburg, and also more to come. So we connect the women to innovate together, to collaborate together, and also not only in the regions, but also in different topics. So we have as you can see, 6 different topics where we discuss, where we make events, where we also have the opportunities for hosting events and discuss on very specific aspects. So we grow and grow. In average, we have 20 events per year across Austria in the different regions and also online, including meetups, expert talks, networking formats, also events like this today. And also to make the scope a little bit again to our topic we have. So we at Women in AI, we argue diversity is a key lever to mitigate the AI risks. And I think we will also dive deeper a little bit also in the keynote what these risks are and how we can also explore and make solutions for these risks. Because we know that with diversity, we can increase the quality. As diverse teams, that's also from science, diverse teams create more reliable AI systems. And using these inclusive AI systems, they are adopted by a broader audiences. So that creates also the trust. And as this is a future topic, this is where we need to start thinking now. So that's about Women in AI. So follow us on LinkedIn. You can use the QR code to stay updated on our next events. Collaborate with us. Come to our meetups. Discuss with us. And I'm really looking forward now also on what ITU is doing in these aspects, and also, of course, to the keynote to explore how we can create an ecosystem where the whole society can benefit from AI. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Verena. I would like to give the chance. Are there any questions on women in AI at the moment? I think if not, we can also have that later on. But
sure, I will be here for. Sometimes you can also come up to me later on, for sure.
Okay, perfect. Then thanks so far. When I suggested we flipped this, the idea was to actually listen to some pillars of importance of the work of Women in AI, so then I can more easily connect to how ITU is actually matching that mission of Women in AI. Because at ITU, we believe that, of course, we have our own mission and we have certain mandates to fulfill, but also we believe in the concept of what we call a network university, which basically means that we, as an institution, we cannot do everything on our own, but we connect to partners that share our mission, that share the same values, and that together in this type of cooperation, we can achieve much more compared to being an individual institution. So I will start with some key numbers, and then I would also like to ask you what you are curious about ITU. When you said Women in AI was founded in 2020, there was the exact same year when at least the idea of ITU came up, which was to create a new university that had and still has 2 main mandates. The first mandate is to contribute proactively to the digital transformation in industry and in society. Because already back then, it was clear that there will be a strong impact of technology in general, but also of AI in particular in those 2 important areas, industry and society. And it was clear that the way that university and science was established back then was not enough to actually keep pace with the very rapid development of technology and especially AI. So first mandate, digital transformation. The second mandate, however, and that's very well connected to that, is to propose a new university model, or if we flip the words, to become a model university, to actually reinvent how the university of the future should look like. Because it's also clear that next to the achievements that the existing universities in Upper Austria, in Europe, but also globally, they have strong achievements, but also they struggle to keep pace with the rapid developments. One example is that a lot of research results are created, but the connection between the creation of knowledge and the actual impact that is brought to society, to industry, is still a bit limited. So the second mandate of the ITU is to show how a university can be more flexible, more progressive maybe, but also more adapted to the actual needs of the current society, current industry, and come up with new governance structures, with new formats of actually interacting with industry and society, and thereby become a role model of how potentially other universities or even other higher education institutes might develop and might transform themselves into the future. Sometimes, and I'm like going out often on events in the media, etc., I'm asked, okay, how does the university in 20 years look like? Or how does ITU in even 15 years look like? And my answer is, I don't know. The only, what I know is the university has to be different than now. Because the development we're seeing, and we have seen maybe in the last 5, maybe 6, 7 years, I think is just a prevision of what is actually to come. And the further development will will accelerate. And even as a university, as an institution, ITU, but also other universities, we will have to make sure that we are able to adapt, that we are willing to learn ourselves how to deal with the challenges of the present, and also be ready at the same time to explore the opportunities of the future. What does that mean in numbers? As we have completed, 4 weeks ago, the 2025, this basically marks the first chapter of ITU, which we also call the basic ramp-up phase. So in mid-2023, so you can see it took already 3 years from the idea of having a new university to actually establish one. Our president, Stephanie Lindstedt, she started as the single person, and she was given the 2 floors here that we rent from JKU as the starting point of the university. And from mid-2023 to the end of 2025, we achieved a significant growth as an institution. That includes, for example, having secured 2 rented locations, one for education. This is where you are here now, where we have some laboratories where our students learn and experience technology, where part of the research is done, but mainly this is the education campus for the purpose of students and transmitting knowledge, doing the basics of education. We have a second rented location in Freistädter Straße. This is our research campus. So there we have the research groups, we have the back office, we have the president and the managing director sitting. So this is where we now, with those 2 locations, have set the physical foundations of the university. In terms of numbers, from the single president person 2.5 years ago, we scaled up to about 200 employees at ITU. Among that, close to 100 students being distributed in 1 master program that we just kicked off last October, and 2 different PhD programs that we initiated 1 year earlier, so in October 2024. So you can see that step by step, we're basically fulfilling also the expectations of being a university, which is being able to do research and creating knowledge and creating contribution on the one hand, but also starting to have students, to produce graduates, and then basically fulfill what a typical industrial, but also civil society stakeholders and key players are expecting from us. When I'm asked to highlight some identical or identity elements of ITU, I typically come up, and in English now it's even easier. So I think it's the 3 big I. Interdisciplinarity, that basically means that as well in research as also in teaching, we firmly believe in the fact that single disciplinary teams and single disciplinary actors are not as strong as groups of people that bring together different perspectives, different backgrounds, different professional backgrounds, and that a software engineer and a psychologist and maybe someone with management experience, they're much better prepared to solve the complex solutions we find in today's society than someone with just a very profound but single disciplinary background. So interdisciplinary is the first core. Second is internationality or international. What does that mean? Our university, ITU, is fully built on the idea to be international, which means all our study programs, all our administrative processes, and a big part of our staff is international, and we have English as our working language, which is quite significant and unique at least in an Austrian and in the German-speaking scientific context. The third I that I like to highlight is what I call impact-driven, which basically means we are improving, or we're looking at the output of the university not just as like scientific publications, which would be a typical measure of universities, but we actually do a strong effort to connect to industry and society and work on the problems that come from them, but also make sure that whatever we do and that whatever we achieve is somehow communicated, is disseminated to actually create an impact in society, in the industry. So we measure ourselves, or we measure our success along the question, how much of our solutions, how much of our research insights, but also how much of our learning results, of our future graduates are actually perceived and accepted by industry and society, so that we create a strong bond, but also a contribution to the ecosystem that we're living in. An important number that I would like to highlight, and this connects perfectly to today's topic and also to women in AI, is that we put significant effort in the topic of gender parity and inclusivity and diversity at all. Of course, there's always room for improvement, but if we look broadly across our students, our staff, and even our professors, then we nearly achieve gender parity in all of those three categories. And under the fact that we are a public technical university, this is quite an achievement. And because we feel as a model university, and now remember our core mandate that we have, it is not only that we try to achieve that and we put it as a value, but we also are working on specific measures how to achieve that, which is, for example, giving specific effort to be able to reach out to younger female scientists or female professional academic staff to make clear that a professorship as a career option is feasible, and that we provide certain support measures, specific types of communication to be actually able to attract a lot of high quality female applicants in the student area, in the staff area, but also specifically in the professorship level. This would be what I think are like some core, some fundamental information. And I would like to ask you as the audience, is there something else that you have as a question towards ITU, towards our model, something that you has always wondered about?
Smiling. My question is, how is ITU accepted by other universities in Austria or in general in Europe? How do they, because your form of education is quite different from their classical way, or how is it then, how do you work together with other universities, say like the universities in Austria or Germany, for example? How does this work? Do you do things together, and how do they accept you as a university?
Yeah, I'll answer that a bit briefly, and then we can have a discussion a bit broader later on. We are still very young, of course, and it's still a learning process. I'd say that there is competition among universities, but it's not a specific thing. ITU and all the other universities, there is just competition for resources, for reputation, etc. What we can say is that we see that a lot of the progressive things that we have started since 2.5 years ago, like a focus on interdisciplinary research groups, a focus on project-based learning, which means that the students work in groups on challenges brought by the industry, a path towards gender parity are things that are adopted, one might say copied, even by larger institutions, specifically also in Austria, because apparently we are kind of hitting a nerve in that. So we are kind of a role model in that. And there is this, I would call that like co-opetition, which is like a mixture of competition with other universities, because of course we want to attract the best staff, best students, and best professional staff, researchers, as the other ones also want. But then there's also a form of cooperation, which is slowly building up. That's also part of the truth, because as a new player, like in the playing field, so to say, of academia, we also have to build our reputation. But we're already seeing that in terms of collaboration with industry, but also with other academic institutions. We have a PhD program where we collaborate with JKU at the moment, for example. We have some international research corporations with other universities. So we're building that up as also other universities would do. And much more in detail, I think we can talk a bit about later on. Okay, further questions so far on the institutional level? Because if not, then I would like to introduce our keynote speaker of today. It's Professor Nina Hubig, and I'm very happy that she'll share the insights that bring on a scientific but also on a practical level some value to our discussion. And so I'm asking for a warm applause, and I'd like to hand it over to you.
So, hello. While I'm changing the slide deck, here we go. Yeah. So, thank you very much for coming here to this talk. I'm the first professor and the first female, of course, with that, hired at ITU in August 2024. And I was given this title today, AI Cannibalism, Future of Quality and Trust on the Web. And that's quite fitting because I'm a professor with the research topic of explainable AI, which is all about trust with this technology, trust in AI. Can we as a human trust them? I'm an AI researcher since 2012 when I did my PhD, and I am assistant professor since 2019. I started in the US as an assistant professor in biomedical data science. I'm a core computer science by training, and I was a data scientist in automotive industry for a couple years, doing something that I heard today, or a lot of people here are doing too, like predictive maintenance, data science, process mining in all different areas of the company. And I can say I saw both worlds. I saw the industry world, shorter, but a little, and quite intensely. And I saw the research world. So now with this title, I must say when I looked into this field deeper and how I can share with you my knowledge, what I experienced, I understood I cannot give it to you just as a researcher, but also as a private person who is observing what's going on in this world. So you see a little bit of emotion, not just facts, in this talk, as I think it relates to all of us. So let's go back to the basic. This is not a talk for AI people who know everything, but actually the basics of mass media, of the internet, is here at its core. And to distinguish, can we trust, and what does it mean to trust digital technology like this? So here, communication science, we have mass media. Let's take a look into the history a little bit. The first mass media that was coming out was the newspapers. Do you remember, or can you have a feeling when newspapers emerged as a technology? I mean, not a digital one, but it was a first step. Feelings, guesses. 1700? Yeah, pretty good. When was it mass produced? 1850s, yeah, very good. So the Gazette 1665 in Germany was one of the first newspapers. I'm always thinking of the Wild West, right? The saloon, sitting there, newspaper. That's the original. 1830, it was with prints for mass media production. Radio, oops. 1920, what do you think of television? 40s, so with World War II-ish. It's pretty much 1920s too. I cannot type it. And internet. 19. Yeah, I have to look. 69 with the ARPANET. What's the ARPANET? Have you heard of it? Who created the ARPANET? DARPA. What's DARPA? Military. The military created the internet. You just have to know this. I know most of you might know it, but DARPA, US military base. Social media with blogs came up in the 1990s. Have you heard of normal bots? Like not chat bots, not the LLM-based ones, normal bots. When did they came out? Rule-based bots.
After the World Wide Web, so around 2000.
Yeah. 2000, do you think? The first rule-based bot, ELIZA, 1966. Can you believe it? Bots are as old as this military thing that came out a couple years later, even to the public at least, right? And then LLM with GPT-3, and let's just claim GPT-3 is now the origin, is 2020. This is how it looks like in a graphic. So we had a long time newspaper-like mass media, and then it was a very steep change in technology that gave us information, mass-produced information. This is the history. Let's talk about definitions of artificial intelligence. As a professor, I like definitions, and the definition here varies significantly depending on whom you talk to. For me, an AI is the upper group of any machine learning algorithm, and any machine learning algorithm is for me based on statistics. It doesn't matter if it's data mining, data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence. For me, it's always a statistics-based method. Used for predictions. If it's a generator, it's sometimes used to create something, content. General knowledge nowadays, since large language models, it believes a large language model is an AI system. If I say AI in a natural context, like talking to people, AI means LLM. Before LLM, AI meant management buzzword incoming here, right? So management buzzword incoming here, and now with LLMs, it's LLMs, AI. The next one is an emotional one you see in media recently quite often. It is something intelligent. Something that we want to make more intelligent than humans, super intelligent. Something special. Not just a tool. We want to create this super AI, super duper AI. It's usually marketing for from big tech companies, usually in the US, and it still sticks. It sticks through the media. This is a perspective people can have when we say AI. There are a lot of stories around it. People get fired because they claim, oh, my Gemini, it knows me, it's talking to me. It's so intelligent, it knows everything. This is another definition of AI when we talk to people. We have to be aware of people talking on different levels. These are the three that I took. This is my guy. Oh, it doesn't work. Who would have guessed? Stop. 1 second. I make it better. So this is, let's think of him as a student of mine, and he will explain to you in 30 seconds what a chatbot is, because we stay on the chatbot side of things. Okay, this doesn't work well. So
After that, the next step, we're going to take this token, put it into the input, and then run the LLM again, predict the next.
when it's louder, I start again.
And we repeat this
Okay.
until
1 second. Okay. So listen to this guy. 30 seconds. He explains to you the inner workings of an LLM. One definition of AI. It's super intelligent.
How an LLM works in 60 seconds.
60 seconds.
So first, when you have an LLM and then you have an input, it's split up into tokens. In this case, what is up and then a question mark. And then an LLM takes those tokens and predicts the next token, just the highest probability. After that, in the next step, we're going to take this token, put it into the input, and then run the LLM again to predict the next token. And we repeat this until the LLM tells us with an end of sequence token that it has finished the generation.
Intelligent. Super duper tool, but clearly a tool. Other thing.
This is how an LLM works.
Now you're good. The other thing, though, that happened, and it happened relatively recently, if I can trust my sources, is LLMs at this point in time solve the Turing test. Have you heard of the Turing test? The Turing test is a philosophical paper by Alan Turing in the 1950s. It explains how, with a 3-point test, so humans checking if the person talking to them is either a human or a machine. So the question that this paper asks is not, is the machine a human? The paper asks, if the machine can good enough fake to be a human, that a human thinks it's a human, then it does it. Then the Turing test is won. And the Turing test, Alan Turing is pretty known in the computer science scene because the Turing Award is the Nobel Prize of computer science. And, well, according to a paper, GPT 4.5 in March 25 won the Turing test by thinking with 73%, this time this machine is a human. So the test done with humans, the correct Turing test, was solved by GPT 4.5, but also by Llama. And this is just one paper that does this test, that repeats this test and tests it out. And you have to understand, if it says 73%, you think, oh, well, it's not 100% at least, right? But that's wrong. Because if I give you a human on the other side of a chat, the normal line where you think this is a human, not a bot, is 50%. So this thing is better in claiming it's a human than a human is able to claim it's a human. Okay? So this is the baseline right now. So we have tools that are so good in faking to be a human that you will more likely think this is a human than you actually think a human is a human. This is the tricky part about it. It's a tool, it's statistics, and it fakes very, very good. So there is not just LLMs, even though this is the most common definition right now. There is also the era of generative AI, because transformer models, LLM types, cannot just create language with connecting to humans. They also create images, they create videos, they create audio. They can fake your voice, they can fake whatever you want. And it looks pretty good. So let's talk about what we meant with cannibalism. In a traditional machine learning pipeline, you feed data into a system, for example, a transformer, an LLM, and you could generate output. And that data that you feed depends on how good your outcome will be, right? Simple. So the cannibalism now happens when you have the World Wide Web. You feed data from the World Wide Web that belongs to someone. Someone created the blog post or the image or the music piece. And you generate something similar, but a new version of it. That's the cannibalism part. I talked about generative AI. Let's take a look at the first use case, something you should know in this field. Likely you know about it. This is a deepfake. It's a deepfake about the Nixon talk, about the moon landing. I forgot when it was, 1970. It was one of the first deepfakes that came out of the market once the first image generator or video generator even came out. It wasn't in public use. Take a look at it. He originally says the data fed into the system is, we made it to the moon. The first person on the moon. We are the greatest, American style. Now he says, they all died. Take a look. Do you see if it's a deepfake? Take a look.
Good evening, my fellow Americans. Fate has ordained that the men who went to the moon to explore in peace will stay on the moon to rest in peace.
Okay. Next use case. Right now, it just came out 4 weeks ago at Chaos Computer Club, the Wikipedia situation. What's going on with the first digital encyclopedia, and what do they say right now? I will paraphrase what I learned. So there is a tale of caution, and here's the link of it if you want to go into it. It's a very good talk by someone long time in Wikipedia environment. I was a board member. He's very strong here. And what he did some checksum testing on the ISBNs and the references of Wikipedia. So you know an ISBN is this very long number you have in books and in references. And there's lots of technical detail around it. I will, at this point, skip it. But the important part is, with this reference, you can check if it's a correct reference or wrong one. Does it exist or not? Was it eventually hallucinated? And he found out there are a ton of completely hallucinated literature references that are copy-pasted into Wikipedia. Tons. Okay? So his test showed how much the system already got corrupted with wrong references. And of course, this is not just Wikipedia. This concerns also research in general. And this discovery now in 2025, like very end in December, right, between Christmas and New Year was this CCC talk, was nothing new. In 2023, the University Library of Hagen already reported they were asked to find literature that doesn't even exist. Or the International Committee of the Red Cross has issued a strong warning on hallucinated references. They even had the experience that people were coming to them and saying, you're hiding the truth. For a reference that just doesn't exist, they couldn't give it to them. But forged literature references are not the only, or not even the core issue. This is just what you see when you check the references. Fortunately, this is still possible, right? Because the hallucinations are that intense sometimes. The core issue is the contamination of Wikipedia with anti-knowledge. Text that does seem or could be true, but it camouflages as information. So we cannot easily, if we're not deep into a topic, usually you look into an encyclopedia to know more, we cannot know the truth anymore. We actually believe what is standing there. And there is this deeper, darker irony here about LLMs who need data from Wikipedia, who learn from Wikipedia, that they are actually drinking from a poisoned well. The data they use for training is corrupted. So articles that are now generated by LLMs in Wikipedia most likely will be unmaintainable and serve as a justification for further deterioration. What do they do now? What is their plan, when I can say so? The procedures that keep Wikipedia running are policies that make the use of LLMs for Wikipedia articles vandalism. Users will be sanctioned and banned, and articles are reversed and deleted. The only thing they can do is something relatively manual, right? Does it work? Maybe a little bit is his conclusion. So there is a lot of effort from Wikipedians to check on LLM generation. but it's a lot. And what does people put into using LLMs for Wikipedia articles, or maybe even for general? The most positive working thesis, the good faith working theory, is ignorance. They don't know that these tools that make such nice text totally talk bullshit. There is also the other reason that could be the neutral working theory. It's inability. They know it sounds better, so I use it. And the cautious working theory is agenda. People who want to have their own political agenda in a systematic encyclopedia, so this becomes the absolute truth. What really shocked me, though, was that the end conclusion was the question in his talk: could this be the end of the road for the concept of a digital encyclopedia? So my students and I, we learned on Wikipedia. And now Wikipedia asks, 4 weeks ago, should we shut down? Is this the end? Another thing that I experienced is, because I'm talking about trust a lot with a lot of people, including my collaborators, is my collaborator in the US, a medical doctor, the president of the medical university. He's a big shot. He calls the situation we have right now the post-truth era. So what is the future? I forgot this one. I asked ChatGPT to give me the American style of saying what's wrong with AIs: shit in, shit out. You put shitty data in, you get shitty data out. That's how he created it for me. I liked it. Let's put it in there. Well, let's talk about the future a little bit, because this is, in the end, the research that is super important, and it's part of my research path too. How do we uphold integrity? Because that's an integrity issue. This is not a cybersecurity issue. It doesn't matter as much how many people are trying to hack you. It's not so many, hopefully, maybe some bots, who knows. But how do we uphold integrity in a world where the data itself might not be correct? Not just for Gen AI, by the way. Think of the long list of mass media that was presented to this situation we have now. Right now, we, professors like me, work on tools that can hopefully flag certain things as this is a deepfake, this is AI generated, this is what ChatGPT writes. How does the reality look like right now? If I use GPT-0 on one of my students' writings, it will tell me some percentage, and then it's usually wrong. If I write a text myself, I test it for GPT-0, its GPT percentage is 53%. So now, what can you believe? The tool doesn't work yet. The tools in general, as far as I know it, don't work yet. We have to wait until we have trustworthy tools. We have to do research on it. Yes, that's my job. But until then, you need to be cautious. You need to understand that it has a significant impact on you, what you believe, if you look into digital media. As far as I know, working in medicine, working in mental health, you need to protect yourself, what you believe. You need to understand what is multi-perspective thinking. With many perspectives existing, you as a human are capable of understanding several of them at the same time. Exercise empathy. And train human responsibility and digital capabilities to understand that this is right now the situation where digital tools, digital knowledge isn't the same as it was we thought before. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot for this, informative but also like mind-provoking talk. So I think we have the floor for some questions, and since we have an online audience, I suggest we use a microphone, and I would start here.
Hi, thank you for this wonderful talk. It was really hitting me on many levels. What I would be interested in now is when I was a student back then, some years ago, we were trained on writing papers, creating scientific things, and proving sources and stuff. But I have I think that maybe nowadays students training in how to work scientifically might be quite different from back then, some years ago. So how has this changed, or didn't it change at all? So what's your perspective, and also the ITU perspective on that?
It has changed as these tools pose a problem, but also how research has evolved. This way, when we are pressured in a different way than it was 10, 15 years ago, maybe even if you make it more extreme, if you look further in history, if you do one paper in 5 years, you're good, right? Now we have to push very hard to get papers out continuously. And what happens with this sort of pressure, and you have a tool like ChatGPT, you cannot tell the students don't use it. They would use it against your wish. So what do? You say use it, but only for this stuff, only for checking your English. Think, understand it fully, explain to me what you're actually writing. Yeah.
Okay, so we were trained in scientific philosophy.
Yeah.
So, but I think that nowadays this would not be sufficient, as I.
You have to understand that, I mean, the philosophy should not have changed much. I hope at least.
Sure, but.
When you work with such tools, and you work with such tools, everyone does at this point in time, the likelihood of you becoming somewhat lazy. I code, I step in it, I click on it, this co-op, the pilot, it does it for me. You have, as long as the tests run, the unit tests, I'm good, right? So this kind of thinking, and the same for if you do language models. It becomes tricky to discern what is your own work, what is your own capability, where can you be trusting in your own capability. And in the end, you should train these core values, not how to use or not use a technology, right? Is that what you, yeah.
I would like to add from an institutional perspective just briefly that I think there are two kind of opposing forces, because there is scientific integrity that basically puts a bit of a ban on using AI, specifically when you're not declaring it. But then on the other hand, since we know like if the knowledge is increasing exponentially, our classical linear way of learning doesn't work anymore. So also as an institution, we're exploring how to use digital tools, how to use AI in order to actually cope with the learning, how to scale learning. So this is like two contradicting forces that we're looking at the same time. So at the institutional level, we're doing research on that, but also we are kind of asked to find ways to deal with it as an institutional education institution on our own.
Do you want to go ahead? Just on the same point, because you said that there's a lot of pressure to come out with a paper really fast, and but how is it as a professor? Do you really look at what is cited? Do you really see, is there, or is it also like for the sake of convenience, you just, or is it like more that you say, okay, you probably also use tools to look through the information, or is there a change here? I don't know. Way back, they didn't have so many tools. How did they do it then, and how do you do it now? Do you see a difference as a professor, or what do you see here? Could you control the quality?
I can control the quality, that's for sure, because I understand the core research, right? The good side is the English has improved by a lot, right? So when I was a PhD, I was sometimes given the papers of some others, and I had to change the English, and they changed it back, and this is not the case anymore. So that was a good side. I have to check all references. I want them to put links in so it's a bit faster, so I don't have to just put it into ChatGPT and it shits some bullshit again. No, I have to manually check the references. And usually that's for sure. On the references, you see most likely how strong someone is relying on some tool. And then it becomes a big problem, right? Because this is about trust as well. If I say don't use it for these kind of things, and I see a reference that's fake, it's a problem, right? But usually it doesn't happen. Yeah.
Do you think that AI will be used just as calculator many years ago? Like first in schools it was not allowed, or it was like a little bit scary to use calculators because you will become more lazy and not calculate them yourself. And we are kind of in the same page again now with AI, and many years later we will say like, okay, it's just more knowledge.
Yeah. The difference is many people might know it. You might think, why do I need to do this in my head, where there's 10 million minus blah, blah, or, these things sometimes seem a bit like, oh, it's cool to use an abacus that's a bit more advanced, right? While when something talks to you and something knows something, talking is our very expression of relating to another human being or to another being in general. If we don't do this anymore or less good, we have a problem in socially connecting. We have a problem if we stop knowing and saying, oh, this is what this thing knows, I don't care about it anymore. You have maybe a problem with living and being as knowledgeable as you are now. So you become a bit, Because this is so core to what the human is, I don't think we can treat it like a calculator. My opinion, my speculation, do you have an idea what it could happen? Because in the end, every one of us at this point can speculate what will happen. I hope it doesn't happen what they say it does, like the Matrix or science fiction incoming here, right? But this is, it's a military relevant technology.
So this is sort of a joint question to all three of you. So Daniel, yesterday you mentioned at the other talk that you're also working with the government to introduce digital tools to schools. And I'm just interested in this age when ChatGPT is reportedly encouraging young people to kill themselves, when Grok is undressing children online. Do you make sure that you inform them of the risks? Do you make sure, maybe in collaboration with Nina, to have an ethical guideline about how to introduce young people to AI? And related to women in AI as well, these are issues that cannot really be solved with technology. It's a problem with technology. Do you, you mentioned the 6 groups that you have, with the policy group, do you also do lobbying and advocacy work, or maybe political work, like do you organize so we can, actually make an impact on, because you say, women are underrepresented, how do we make our voices heard? So this is a sort of like a joint question, whoever wants to answer first.
I would briefly start because you first touched that. Yesterday we had a network spotlight on learning, and we were discussing AI tutors and impact on performance, but also impact on motivation, so to say. And I was sharing that we are starting to work with schools and how they would actually integrate digital tools, especially in AI, in the curriculum. Exactly answering your question, do we make sure? The answer is not yet, because we're still at the level where we're discussing with the schools how they should actually integrate that in the curricula. Because the truth is, children getting younger, they will use chatbots, LLM, whatsoever, anyway. So at least in the school, we have the advantage to bring like an educational format. And of course, in our conversations, we're starting now with, okay, when actually to introduce that, for example, into the curriculum, but then all those questions that are derived from that will come up later on or have to be kind of contributed before then actually all of that is coming into place. So it's on the roadmap, but there is no kind of, I'd say, solution for that. It's also still of a process in the discussion, in the negotiation with the schools, but also as you're like remarking on a, maybe even up to a political level, how do we actually make sure that the use of technology that we already know, it will happen anyway, and even we have to encourage future generations to be technology prone, because if not, they will not be competitive in our current world setting, but then still make sure that the benefits and the opportunities of technology by far outweigh the risks, or we find mitigation measures to actually deal with the risks.
I will go second. I work in mental health. I work with this companionship. I tried to figure out if we can do an AI therapist that actually works in a healthy way. And research right now says it does not. So right now, research is catastrophic. If you use a ChatGPT interface, if just a chat interface, it actually has the worst outcomes. At this point in time, I would argue with politics, with guideline makers, with policy makers, restrict it, in particular restrict it for children. Because of course, we as adults, as mother, father, we can restrict this from children as we can restrict TV. And definitely we can restrict it also, particular these type of apps that you mentioned. I mean, it's clearly also a bit, there is no problem restricting these kind of things, but restricting ChatGPT as a chat interface, which has a lot of negative implications on mental health, particularly because people imagine it's a human, right? This is tougher because it's a societal change. Yeah. Sorry.
I would like to briefly
maybe I can just finish the round. Yeah. So what we do at Women in AI, so we are also tackling separate. So you saw the 6 groups, and we are participating in several activities to what you mentioned. So first, we strongly believe that AI literacy is the key. So that's why we are also members of our association are organizing workshops in cooperation with Digital Austria, so that they are bringing this knowledge to the broader audience and to the general public, basically, so that all people can benefit from this knowledge and also are aware of what is going on here. So that's the first things we are doing. We are of course also doing events like this today, also to bring these questions to the audience and to the general public. That's on the second. You mentioned also lobbying and policy. So when the EU was drafting the EU AI Act, there was a multi-stakeholder consultation where Women in AI Austria also submitted to the multi-stakeholder consultation, and where all these insights we gave in this consultation were also addressed in the EU AI Act. So that's also what we are doing. And also our policy group is scanning regularly on how we can participate in all these discussions. So we are really working on this. And so that's why we are not a think tank, that's why we are a do tank, and we are participating in many activities here. And also just on the policy group again, our former president is also a member in the AI, in the KI Beirat, so the AI advisory board for the government. And we are also part in many associations and activities here. And we need further doers, yeah, sure.
So in the beginning, you mentioned all the technologies that started over through the years with radio, television, internet, and all of this progressed into something that was completely beneficial for society. And in that particular case, AI was also mentioned in the very last, starting in 2020. And then the conversation went on to progress on how it has a lot on negative effects, indirectly implying. So where do we draw the line on in extracting its for its very good purposes, which everyone knows it has, and dividing the ethics and all the negatively it's impacting our society?
I wish I would know, but I agree with you. When I look at any technology, it does not be mass media, even though this is mass media for me is not as positive maybe, because particularly during the world wars, you saw how negatively it affects people. But if you just think of something like a plane, right, as a technology that's amazingly good, or just that we are able to write, like this is a technology too, right? And if you think of any technology, it has these amazing benefits in many, many forms for society. And AI has that potential to do so too. And the pathway to that utopia, if we target it, which we should, is not so easy. So while I'm sure that it can have a utopian scenario in the end, the pathway with all the the restructuring will be very tricky. That's what I believe.
Also, if I can ask one last question. As someone who's deeply been integrated into AI for a long time, what would you say are your predictions or opinions on the long-term future of AI?
Like on the long term, like the next 300 years? Or are we at AGI in 2 years?
I would say the short-term future, as we see how quickly it's progressing in terms of AI. So 300 years, I would go to 10 to 20 years.
The thing that concerns me a little bit is I see that the future in the far future can be super good. Like in the next 50, 100, 200, 300, right? Can be super good, can be super not good too. But this is all very high speculation. Right now, what I'm seeing, and that's concerning to me, is we have a technology in its infancy. And it's already wrecking. That's the point. And we are living right now. We shouldn't, maybe in 200 years we're all perfectly fine and it does everything for us and we just sit there and enjoy life. But maybe not. Maybe there's a lot of war in between. Maybe,
If I can add to that. So I think the velocity is amazing. So if so thinking in long terms is maybe 1 year. So 1 year ahead, what will happen there? But what I truly believe in is also in society. So if individuals are stepping up and also associations are taking their space and also progressing and doing their activities, there's hope, I would say. So, but we need more and more people who also think about these risks and address it in their ways with their expertise, with their views on this topic. And that's why it's so important that we have this discussion also today.
I have more of a comment than a question. You talked a lot about trust. And I see this topic being as much about trust as it is about responsibility. Because this was basically the topic with all mass media about the responsibility was behind it and how the person, or in this case the person, in another case maybe the machine chooses to use that specific mass media. Somebody was talking about Grok and how this kind of bubble exploded in the AI undressing children on X, and the response from the social media itself was to blame the AI, when in fact the blame should have been on the misusers of the AI. So kind of what do you think about this?
I haven't followed this particular bubble. It seems for me so this is something where a lot of people will actually be very consensual in that, any tool in the internet undressing children is a problem. I mean, it's just so clearly not okay that I'm surprised it was not thought as a responsibility of us for our children, for humans, for our children, not for any, and in this case, it's for sure tool. So yeah, of course you're right. So that would be my comment. The tool is not the problem here. Our data is, and we create the data, so in the end, we are the creators of these kind of tools. So, but that's, when I think about what I have to do to ensure data integrity, there are these big supercomputers that did every day a snapshot of the whole internet since 1970, right, since its start. And this data exists. But when I think about me labeling it, what would I use? At some point I would use a tool. On what criteria would I label it? And this is where it starts to become really problematic, right?
So any further questions, comments? There's Philip, okay.
So you already talked about this, like we have to be, of course, more careful in the future of how we use it. And we touched also upon like social media on Twitter, like undressing not only children, but also adult women, and like making children also, like, you know, kill themselves. But I think, and I don't know if you are able to talk on this, or if you know anything about this. We talk a lot about you know, like growing up, like children, like growing up, young people in school, and how they use AI. But it's not a lot is said about current older generations also using it. I think.
You mean us?
Well, no, even older than that. Sorry about it. But I mean, just, you know, like grandparents, or like just our parents, like sitting at home consuming all this content, and you know, just believing what they see, and, you know, get misinformation, you know.
I mean, I observed what you were saying.
Yeah.
I also observed a lot of colleagues of mine wanting to go into fact-checking, which is, in my opinion, the same problem of data integrity that anything is, right? If you have a person in your life, in your family, that has a very different perception of the world than you have, the only thing you can do is to empathize and to understand the other bubble as much as you can. That's my opinion. Because in the end, you want to understand and not fight, right? You cannot say everything you read is bullshit. It's unlikely they will understand that.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is they will feed with similar kind of data what their ideology is. You know, it's so much on the back end. It's like suppose somebody believes in some kind of conspiracy theory. They will get the content along that part. You know, they are not getting the diversified data and all those things. Back in the cookies and all those things collected is giving that way. It's bias itself while searching the data and all those things. So how to solve that?
How does it work that you believe something, all of us? You know how it works, right? You read it somewhere, you read it somewhere else, someone else is talking the same stuff, so you have different sources saying the same things. Confirmation bias. That's how your whole belief system is built up. It works for them. It works for you. How can you say one is better than the other? You have to understand the other bubbles. That's your ability as a human. It doesn't matter if it's read or write or blah or blah. It doesn't matter what social media says. Of course, everyone knows social media is a bit problematic. I wouldn't dive too deep into it if I don't want too much drama, but sometimes we want drama, right? So, in my opinion, this is how it is right now. You will have these extreme bubbles and they will fight. Do you want to be part of that fight? I don't know, it's individual, but what I think as a society is we should try to go back into caring for another, not fighting because of some bubble that we believe in. Particularly if the bubble comes from social media or media, because it's a media thing. You saw the bubbles, how they generate, right? One comes mainly from social media, one comes mainly from television, one comes from newspaper. And now it's not 10,000 bubbles, it's like a couple. That has changed through bots, likely. I have no real good answer, I'm sorry.
I wanted to ask, I think that pictures and videos that are AI generated are more easily detected that they are AI. Why don't we have something like a rule that everyone should have, like every photo or video posted that is generated with AI should have a tag of AI, so then we know what can we trust or what can we not. And this maybe can solve the problem that he just mentioned, that older people don't know what to trust or what is AI capable of. So if they see this this tag, I think it will solve a lot of stuff.
Exactly, it's true, and this is the research direction, but this question, why is it not yet there? Since 2020, there are chatbots and image generators and whatever generators, they run around wildly, it's Wild West for them. Why is it not done yet? Particularly with all the distrust going on. I mean, it should be easy, right? There's government doing stamp it, done. It should be easy. Why don't they do it? I don't know.
Money. Yeah, it's capitalism.
If it's capitalism, then tell them you get a lot of money if you create an independent institution that checks on AI generation and puts a stamp on it, and oh my God, please don't let it be corrupted, right? So, but they didn't do one little thing in that direction. Even though I agree with you, it's necessary. And maybe one reason is they cannot correctly identify all AI-generated code. I don't know. I see that as a problem.
Thank you.
Further questions? Very well.
Thank you. Maybe just to build on this, I was actually talking with a product manager from YouTube, and they said that this is also one of their main focus right now, to actually detect the deepfake ones from the real ones. And it's actually not as simple as one might think, especially because people who generate this, they usually use it for commercials or videos that link you to other parts. And they're actually having agents who create them. So even if they start detecting, they have so many agents in the background to create new ones that even if you find a new rule of how you detected that, they learn that and they create new videos on top of that. So this is really their hard part. So that's why for the moment, they still have human eye looking through that to verify, which is really not scalable. So they're trying to create new tools, but it's getting harder and harder to detect these deepfakes. And coming back to the age group, for younger people, it's actually easier to detect the difference because maybe they pay more attention to this, whereas for older generations is not that noticeable, the difference. So at least what they were saying is that this is one of their main focus. They are investing more and more engineering support in that direction, but it's becoming harder and harder to detect the deepfake or all the fake content that is out there. Because the moment it's banned, it's recreated. They're learning what's the pattern of being banned, and then they build on that, and new videos are created.
Nice objective function for them, I see. And I must admit, every deepfake I saw, I couldn't, maybe 50% I could distinguish. Right now in AI infancy, give it 10 years.
Maybe. Maybe also to add on that, so that's always a little bit of a robber-police problem. So when the police gets better in detecting the robbery, then also the robbers get more creative so that's this kind of problem. And also in integrating these tags, it's also a little bit on the accountability of the platforms and also on what's their priority in integrating these systems to detect this generated content. And I think there are also platforms out there where this is not even in their interest, maybe. So that's also on something on how could we regulate these things. So that's also another aspect on that. So maybe we also need to push them more towards that they need to prioritize these things. Otherwise, they cannot. Their services cannot be used.
And just to build on that, what was also interesting, there was an article about this in US, like books start coming out, which has the tag not generated by AI. So not that it was like generated, but actually emphasizing that it's not generated by AI. And this was also done as a research that actually people respond better in seeing the tag that is not generated by AI or versus generated by AI. It creates a different feeling. They immediately trust the book if they see not generated by AI. So even if they have had used parts of it with AI, just the fact that they see their tag, they immediately trust it.
Very needed. Yeah, such things are very needed, I believe. Why does the US have it now and we don't have it yet?
I mean, some books started, it's not a general rule, and you know also where Trump stands with all of these things and everything. So some books, just because it is market research and they notice that having this tag speaks to people now when everybody's mistrusting the information online.
I mean, right now AI are trained with books as well. And if you have a perfect Turing test and looks like it's written by a human, you can put any label on it, no? I'm very concerned about this because I believe it might be very tough to find these, like, you know, in cryptography, you had this, I encrypted, I decrypted, I encrypted, I decrypted, and this was a fight that got on for a while. And where is it now? Yeah, I'm not sure if we can decrypt correctly, always encrypt, I don't know. SSL maybe is not solved yet. Yeah, in these tools that are relational, more or less, because they go on language or on whatever we need in our mass media, right? If we cannot solve it, it's a big problem. Right now, it's not solved. We are in problem space. Let's solve it as quickly as we can. And policy, in my opinion, should do the labels.
I would use the moment to wrap up a lot of the discussion in saying that we as humans, we use technology to solve problems. And typically, every new technology comes with new challenges, and we will only be able to solve those with dialogue, with like new technology maybe with some regulation. And this is why the focus on interdisciplinarity, not only understanding the technical part of AI, but also the societal implications, the business implications, the relations to other fields are so important. And this is why we are happy to provide a floor for such a discussion, for such an exchange. And with that, I would like to close this type of format, and I'll invite every one of you to stay a bit with us, engage in discussions, even a bit more or one-to-one, or in smaller groups, or even in larger groups. We prepared some refreshments and also some snacks to fuel your brain, to fuel the conversation. I'd like to thank, first of all, our two speakers, Verena and Professor Nina Hubig. And then, of course, I would like to thank our audience here, all our guests, the online audience. And with that, I wish all of us a great evening. Thanks for your attention. Thanks for your inputs, for the discussion, and looking forward to receiving you the next time at ITU. Thanks.